Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we are looking at solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula, x equal minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is what we call the quadratic formula. But first, let us remind ourselves what a quadratic equation is. So, a quadratic equation is an equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers or numbers that we know and use, and a, of course, is not equal to 0. When we solve a quadratic equation, which we can do using many methods, factoring, completing the square, or using the formula, as we will do in this lesson, you will get, in most cases, two answers called roots or zeros. Those two answers may be the same number, they may be different numbers, or in some cases, we get complex roots. Now, we're going to go through some examples to show you how to use the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. Now, when we're using the quadratic formula, we use this x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is the formula. It's quite easy to remember if you write it down each time you use it. And so the first thing we need to do with this question here, let me just make it a little bigger, is to write down what a, b, and c are. Now, this is a, it's the coefficient of the square term. This is b, it's the coefficient of the x, and that is c. And once we know those three, we can simply substitute them into this and get our answers. Let's do it. So the formula says x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Let's do some quick substitutions. So x would be equal to minus b, there's a minus sign, b is negative 7, plus or minus the square root of b, which is negative 7, square minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 2. All of that over 2 times a, which is 3. And just running through the top here, negative of negative 7 will give us positive 7, plus or minus the square root of. Working out here gives us 49 minus 24 over 6. And so what we get then, continuing it here, we get 7 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 6. And so what we get now is that we need to find the square root of 25. The square root of 25 is 5. And so we have 7 plus or minus 5 over 6. And this now is what is going to give us our two answers. So we're going to get 7 plus 5 over 6, and 7 minus 5 over 6. In this case, we get 12 over 6, which gives us 2. And in this case, we get 2 over 6, which is the same thing as 1/3. And so our solutions are x is equal to 2, x is equal to 1/3. And all that you need to do to use this formula really is just a calculator. So once you plug in your numbers, you can simply go ahead and use your calculator to finish the rest of it by getting your answers. So it's a pretty safe method to use. Once you know the formula, do your substitution and get your results. Let's look at another one. Here we have the question that says, show that the roots of the equation x squared minus 3x plus 1 are this and this. So remember, first we write down our a, b, and c. A in this case is equal to 1, b is equal to minus 3, and c is equal to 1. And so all we're going to be doing is taking these three values, substituting them into this, and we're good to go. So x would be equal to minus b. B here is minus 3, plus or minus, that's in the formula there, square root of b squared, that's negative 3 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 1, that's a times c, and all of that over 2 times 1. So here we have 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 take away 4 over 2, and that of course gives us 3 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2. Now 3 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2 is the same thing as saying 3 over 2 plus or minus square root of 5 over 2. Just in the same way as 2 plus 1 over 3 is the same thing as 2 over 3 plus 1 over 3. Same idea here. 3 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2 is the same thing as 3 over 2 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2, or if you want to multiply that, then you can write it as 3 over 2 plus, take out the half there, square root of 5, same thing. So we have shown that the roots of this equation are these, which is 3 over 2 plus or minus a half root 5. There we go. Let's look at one more example. Here we have 2x squared plus 2x minus 8 is equal to 3x minus 6, and we want to calculate to one decimal place the values of x for this equation. Now notice this equation does not end with a 0, so we need to make it end with a 0 by removing these here and put them on the other side. So we have 2x squared plus 2x. This is a positive 3x, so we subtract it on the other side. And this is negative 6, so we add it to the other side. So we have minus 8 here plus 6 equals 0. And adding that up gives us 2x squared, 2x take away 3x here, gives us a negative x, or negative 1x. And negative 8 plus 6 here gives us negative 2. So we'd write that as negative 2 equals 0. And now that we have this, we can go ahead and solve the equation by plugging these values into it. Now let's write down our A. A is equal to 2, B is equal to negative 1, and C is equal to negative 2. So we need to put these into the equation, into the formula. So let's write it. Minus B, x is equal to minus b, which is minus negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 square minus 4 times 2, that's 4 times a, times negative 2, all of that over 2 times 2, and let's just try to simplify this now. Here we have 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus negative 4 2's 8, 2 8 16, so 4 2's 8 here, and 2 8's are 16, over 4. And so what we have is 1 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 4. Now once we have this, we just need to plug it into our calculator to find the square root of 17. And the square root of 17 is 4.1. So we're going to have 1 plus or minus 4.1 over 4. And this is going to give us our two results. So let's have them as 1 plus 4.1 divided by 4. That gives us 5.1 over 4. And let's quickly divide that out. 5.1 divided by 4 gives us 1.275. which we will round off as 1.3, since we want one decimal place. And the other one is 1 minus 4.1 over 4, which gives us negative 3.1 over 4. And now we're going to divide that. And that gives us negative 0.775, which we're going to round off because we want one decimal place, as negative 0.8. So we have two solutions, and our two solutions are x equal 1.3 and x equal negative 0.8. So this is how we use the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic equation. Now remember, all that you need to do is to know the formula and to correctly write down A, B, and C from your equation. And once you write those down, you substitute the values into the quadratic formula. The rest of it is calculator work. You go through that and you find your solutions. Now that you know, that's how it's done. Remember to practice, remember to hone in the skill and to lock it down. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, then please do. We thank you for your support. And of course, thank you for watching.